General Tsar of the Oishan Empire cackled with malicious glee as he surveyed the rebel base on his view screen. He envisioned the laser fire ripping through their flimsy barricades, utterly unaware that the Silver Wolves and their human commander were poised to send 10,000 of his soldiers straight to hell. Meanwhile, Commander Alan Rice scowled as he replayed a desperate message from Vox, the rebel leader. Angrily, he punched the bulkhead of his cabin, cursing under his breath. The Oishan Empire had pushed the rebels to the brink, and Vox's voice had trembled with pleading for help. Without the Silver Wolves, the rebel cause would be crushed within a day. Alan's company was renowned as the best in the galaxy, but the odds were grim, 200 mercenaries against 10,000 Imperial troops. The numbers seemed suicidal, but Alan owed Vox. They had fought side by side years ago, always watching each other's backs. Alan was determined to repay that debt. "All right, you clankers, listen up." Alan barked through the dropship's comm system. "I just took a contract. We're heading to Eidos Prime. The rebel base is about to be overrun. 10,000 Imperial soldiers are about to roll right over them. Vox needs us to buy time, hold them off long enough to evacuate the refugees." Zara, his best sniper, whistled. "Sounds like a target-rich environment. What's the catch? Are we expecting to make it out?" Alan spat in response. "We're getting paid half up front, the other half if we get out. But we owe Vox. You all know that. We can't leave him twisting in the wind." Murmurs filled the craft as the wolves understood how much Vox meant to their commander. They would follow Alan into any hell. The Empire expected to steamroll the rebels with sheer numbers, but those poor dumb bastards had never fought humans before. They thought they could bury them in bodies. Alan laughed. 200 wolves against 10,000 sheep. I almost feel sorry for them. Imagine their surprise when they realize they poked the wrong mercenaries. The dropship erupted into cheers as the wolves roared, "Yura! Let's rock! Time to die, imps! Lock and load, wolves! We drop in 6 hours. If we've got to die, let's make sure we drag 1,000 imps to hell with us. Get some rest. You'll need it." Alan cut the comm, and the wolves howled for blood as usual. He allowed himself a tight grin. This was a one-way trip, and the Oishan Empire was in for a nasty shock. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Alan would ensure the rebels got out and make the imps pay in blood for every inch of ground. It was time to show these aliens what humans were made of. The wolves were the best in the galaxy at cracking skulls and breaking bones. This would be the most epic last stand in history, and Alan couldn't wait to see the look on that imp general's face when the Silver Wolves turned his 10,000 grunts into corpses. The dropships lurched as they exited hyperspace above Eidos Prime. Alan jabbed the comms. "Vox, you there? We need to coordinate our attack. What's your status?" Vox's voice crackled over the link. "Thank the stars you're here, Alan. We're holed up in an old bunker complex in the Khazra Mountains, tunnels and turrets carved right into the rock. But the imps are massing on the Scouring Plateau, 15 clicks northeast. There's only one way in from there, through the Khazra Pass." Alan pulled up a holomap of the terrain, his eyes narrowing. The pass was a deep ravine with steep cliffs rising on either side, a perfect spot for an ambush. "Here's the plan. We turn that pass into a meat grinder. Rig it with mines, charges, auto-turrets, everything. Then we hit them from the sides." He turned to his techs. "Mark, Gia, get the Hellhounds fitted with jump jets. I want them scaling those cliff walls." The mechanics nodded and rushed off. "OA, take your sappers and seed the ravine with every nasty surprise you can think up, proximity mines, remote detonation charges, flechette launchers. By the time you're done, a fly won't bust through there without getting turned to pulp." The demo experts grinned viciously. They won't know what hit them. "Boss," Vox spoke up again, his voice grim. "Alan, hurry. Our sensors just lit up. They're on the move. Emperor's balls, it's an army down there, tanks, artillery. It has to be over 10,000 ground-pounders, and they're all headed straight for the pass." Alan flashed a predator smile. "Good. Right where we want them." The dropships dove into the atmosphere, stealth systems masking their approach as they streaked over the arid landscape. The rebels patched them into the Imperial comms chatter. Multiple contacts on the scope, General, a crisp Ocean voice reported. 2 small signatures, dropship class, descending towards the Khazra region. A deep, cruel laugh echoed over the channel. General Zalta, 2 puny dropships. So this is the mighty reinforcement the rebels called in? I expected an armada, not a pair of scrap heaps. Russ jeering filled the link. The Ocean soldiers mocked the incoming ships. Should we divert to intercept them? Ignore them, Zalta scoffed. 2 dropships against the might of the Empire? You could at least try to waste our time. We have a rebel stronghold to crush. Let the pickets swat those annoying flies. Alan chuckled darkly as he muted the comm. 2 dropships full of wolves, you mean? And you slugs just walked right into the den. The valley shook as the silver wolves sprung their trap. The Ocean tanks and artillery crawled into the pass, unaware of the firestorm awaiting them. Suddenly, the roar of rockets and plasma fire split the air. The mercenary dropships swept down from the sky, disgorging assault vehicles along the valley ridgeline. Jump jets flared as the hellhounds bounded up the cliffs, their heavy cannons already belching death. Explosions ripped through the Ocean formation as rockets found their marks. Tanks erupted into pillars of fire, shattered hulls pinwheeling through the air. Gouts of dirt and shrapnel flew from plasma impacts, turning artillery pieces into molten slag. The imps scattered, shouting in panic, all discipline lost. That was when the mines triggered. The valley floor bucked and heaved as a carpet of explosions rolled across it. The doomed soldiers vanished in clouds of pulverized rock and flame. Craters and fissures yawned open, swallowing entire squads. The once orderly advance degenerated into a stumbling mob bogged down in a hellscape of broken earth. Then the flechette turrets opened up. A buzzing whine filled the air as the autoguns spat out storms of lethal darts. The diamond-hard slivers shredded armor and flesh alike, cutting down the Imperial infantry in droves. Soldiers jerked and danced like blood-soaked marionettes as the flechettes ripped them apart. Forward, you dogs! General Zar bellowed from his command tank, trying to rally his troops. I want the shock troops on that ridge now. His elite power armor troopers surged ahead, jump jets flaring as they tried to gain a foothold on the cliffs. But Alan had planned for this. Zara, you up, he barked into the comm, hit those shiny bastards. With pleasure, boss, the sniper purred. Perched on an outcrop high above, Zara's rifle cracked again and again, sending hypervelocity slugs straight through the Ocean faceplates. Beside her, Kron and Jessic poured plasma fire and grenades down on the shock troops, scattering their advance. The imps regrouped, hurling themselves up the pass with newfound ferocity. Tanks and soldiers clambered over the piled corpses of their comrades, heedless of the merciless kill zone. The wolves poured it on, holding the high ground and turning the enemy's numbers against them. The valley had become a roaring pit of death. MOX, you with me? Alan vaulted into a hellhound, the jump-capable vehicle purring to life. Let's go give those imps a kick in the ass. The trio of assault craft blazed over the ridgeline and dropped into the enemy's rear echelons. Autocannons roared as they shredded supply trucks, ammo carriers, and fuel tankers. Secondary explosions blossomed behind the imp lines as the Sabur crippled their logistics. In the rebel bunker, Vox watched the carnage unfold on the monitors, his mandibles agape. The Silver Wolves fought with a savage skill and fury that defied belief. I knew the Terrans were fierce warriors, he murmured, but this is incredible. They fight like demons. Yet, despite their ferocity, the Ocean forces pressed on with a relentless tide of fanatic hatred, scrambling over the corpses of the fallen. Zalta drove them on, caring nothing for the lives he spent. The pass had become an abattoir, but the imps would not break. Sheer numbers were forcing the mercenaries back, and Alan gritted his teeth as more enemy tanks ground forward. They couldn't fall back, not yet. They had to buy the rebels a little more time. Aboard the lead dropship, Alan roared over the din of combat, keep pushing. We need to hold them long enough for Vox to get his people out. Move it, move it, move it. The roar of the engines and the scream of weapons created a cacophony of warfare. The wolves fought with grim determination, the pass now a churning mass of fire, steel, and blood. Hours turned into an unending blur of violence. The sky was painted in hues of orange and red as the last of the Imperial forces advanced through the scorched pass. The Silver Wolves had pushed back every assault, though at a terrible cost. Exhausted and blooded, they clung to their last strongholds. Alan's heart pounded with fierce pride. They'd held the pass for hours, and the rebel evacuation was nearing completion. Soon, they'd be done. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid tang of burnt ozone when Vox's voice crackled over the comm once more. "Commander Rice, we're done here. The last of our people are aboard the transports. Thank you. I don't know how to repay you for this." Alan grinned through the grime and sweat. "Just make sure you survive. We're holding the pass as long as we can. Get your people out of here." With a final, savage yell, Alan ordered a full retreat. The Silver Wolves began their withdrawal, fighting every step of the way. The sheer weight of the Imperial onslaught, now unstoppable, drove them back. The pass was littered with the bodies of the fallen. The wolves retreated in a savage rearguard action, slowing the Imperial advance with every inch they gave. With a final, fiery explosion, the last Hellhound limped out of the pass, leaving the ravine to the imps. General Zar's forces surged into the pass, victorious but battered. The once orderly Imperial formation had been reduced to a ragged column of survivors. They had won the battle, but the cost had been horrific. General Zar glared at the wreckage and corpses that marked the trail of his conquest, unable to believe how the Silver Wolves had turned his victory into a grotesque monument to their defiance. In the aftermath, the Silver Wolves regrouped in a safe house far from the battlefield, their faces grim but their spirits unbroken. They had done their job. Vox's people were safe. And though they had lost many comrades, the Wolves had proved, once again, that even against insurmountable odds, they were a force to be reckoned with. The galaxy would remember the day the Silver Wolves turned the Khazra Pass into a hell of fire and blood.